Hi, everyone. My name's Amelia, and I'm a 28-year-old interior designer. What I'm about to share is how my mother-in-law's generosity spiraled into a nightmare. Life was good before the drama started. My husband, David, and I lived in a cozy apartment in Seattle. Nothing fancy, but it was home. We were saving up for our dream house while I built my interior design business, and David taught history at the local high school. We were just your average couple. Then I found out I was pregnant. "Babe, you look really pale. Maybe we should get you checked out," David said one morning as I hugged the toilet bowl for the third time. Morning sickness hit me like a truck, far worse than normal. After multiple ER visits and specialized treatments, the medical bills began piling up. That's when Willow, my mother-in-law, swooped in. "Amelia, darling, let me handle the medical expenses. No daughter-in-law of mine should worry about money during pregnancy," she said sweetly. My best friend Vanessa, a lawyer, pulled me aside later. "Something feels off about this no-strings-attached offer." "It's David's mom. What could go wrong?" I replied, completely naive. At first, Willow's help seemed harmless, generous even. But soon, she started showing up everywhere. My doctor's appointments, our apartment, even meetings with my clients. "Just checking on my investment," she'd say with a smile laced with condescension. "Have you considered switching to Dr. Peterson? He's much more experienced," she suggested during dinner at her mansion. "I've already talked to him about taking you on as a patient." "You did what?" I choked on my water. "Mother, we're happy with our current doctor," David interjected. "Sweetheart, I'm only thinking of the baby. After all, I'm the one paying for everything." That's when things started unraveling. Her assistant, Rosie, began conveniently bumping into me at cafes and yoga classes. I later discovered she was reporting my every move back to Willow. "Amelia, you should really eat more protein," Willow texted me minutes after I ordered a salad. The controlling behavior intensified. At a family barbecue, Brandon, David's childhood friend who worked for Willow's real estate company, pulled me aside. "Watch yourself," he whispered. "I've seen her do this before. The medical bills are just the beginning." I should have listened to him and Vanessa, but between severe morning sickness and trying to keep my business afloat, I missed the red flags waving in front of me. One morning, when I refused to switch doctors, Willow made her move. "I just got off the phone with the hospital billing department," she said casually, stirring her tea. "It'd be a shame if there were delays in processing those payments." "Are you threatening me?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Oh, darling, I'm just reminding you who's keeping you out of medical debt." David tried standing up for me, but Willow knew how to manipulate him. "I'm only looking out for your family's best interests, sweetheart. Amelia seems so unstable lately." That word, unstable, started popping up everywhere. At charity events, garden parties, even at David's school functions, Willow had been busy spreading rumors. One day, Brandon caught me crying in a parking lot. "She's got Rosie tracking your every move. Credit card purchases, appointments, everything," he said, showing me screenshots of reports on his phone. My entire life had become a surveillance operation. Then came the final blow. At dinner one night, Willow announced, "I've prepared a suite in my mansion. The stress of maintaining an apartment isn't good for the baby. I've already started moving your things." "You did what?" I snapped. David finally pushed back. "Mother, you can't just." "Can't what?" "Protect my grandchild. Amelia clearly needs supervision. Her erratic behavior, missing appointments." "I haven't missed any appointments." "That's not what your doctor told me." My blood ran cold. "You've been talking to my doctor." "Of course. As the person paying for your care, it's my responsibility." That night, I stormed out of her mansion, but not before grabbing a stack of unopened mail from her desk. Later, I discovered letters from my doctor's office that Willow had been intercepting. "David, look at these postmarks. She's been stealing our mail." He looked torn. Maybe she thought she was helping. Helping. She's trying to control everything. Our home, my medical care, my life. Brandon showed up with more evidence. "Your mother's done this before. Remember Carlos' wife? How she suddenly seemed unstable during her pregnancy." This was just the beginning of Willow's twisted game, and I knew I had to fight back. David's face went pale. She left him." "No," Brandon corrected grimly. "Your mother drove her away, and now she's doing it again." The next day, I stumbled upon a draft email on Rosie's computer when she stepped away from her desk. My heart stopped as I read it. It was a message to my doctor, requesting all of my medical records, pretending to be me. My hands shook as I snapped photos for evidence. This wasn't just about control anymore. This was illegal. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks when Brandon pulled me into his office one morning. "You need to see this," he said, handing me his phone. He found emails between Willow and the principal of an elite private school in New York. She rejected a job offer for David without telling him, Brandon revealed. "What?" I gasped. 6-figure salary. Department head position. They reached out 3 months ago, but she told them he wasn't interested in relocating. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the emails. How could she do this? Brandon's expression was grave. She's done it before. Her sister-in-law, Lisa? Willow sabotaged every career opportunity Lisa's husband had until they had no choice but to move in with her. They divorced 6 months later. I felt the room spinning. This wasn't meddling. This was sabotage. I called Vanessa immediately. She showed up with a legal pad and began documenting everything. The stolen mail, the medical privacy violations, the interference in David's career. "Look at this," Vanessa said, pulling up court records on her laptop. She's already consulting with lawyers about grandparents' rights. She's building a case to claim you're an unfit mother. I felt sick. She wants to take my baby. Vanessa's jaw tightened. She's playing a long game, Amelia. But this just became a legal battle. We need to act fast. Before we could process everything, Willow invited us to a special family dinner. I knew something was coming, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened that night. Over dessert, Willow dropped the bombshell. "I've arranged for a psychiatric evaluation," she announced smoothly, sipping her wine. Amelia is clearly not in her right mind. David shot up from his chair. "Mother, stop this." Willow's eyes glinted with icy determination. "David, look at her, paranoid, emotional, making wild accusations. She needs help." "Because they're true," I shouted, my chair scraping against the floor as I stood. "You stole our mail. You interfered with David's career. What else have you done, Willow?" "Sit down," she hissed, her sweet facade crumbling. "Remember who's paying your medical bills, Amelia. One call, and you'll lose everything. No one will believe a crazy, hormonal pregnant woman over me." "I'll make sure of it," Willow sneered as we stormed out. David's face went white. For the first time, he truly saw his mother for who she was. We packed our bags that night, ignoring her screams about the medical bills. "You ungrateful little. You'll regret this," she shouted as we walked out the door. She made good on her threats the very next day. David's principal called him into the office, saying a complaint had been filed claiming he was emotionally unstable and unfit to teach. It was an anonymous tip, but Brandon texted me later with confirmation. The email came from Rosie's account. The stress was unbearable. That afternoon, I started having contractions 10 weeks early. As they rushed me to the hospital, Willow appeared, her face a mask of calm authority. "I'm her mother-in-law," she told the staff. "She's not mentally competent to make medical decisions." Thank God Vanessa was there. She stepped in immediately. "Step back, or I'll have security remove you," she said coldly, her legal badge practically radiating authority. The doctors managed to stop the contractions, but I was placed on bed rest and hooked up to monitors. As I lay in the hospital room, exhausted and terrified, David sat beside me, holding my hand. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, tears in his eyes. "I should have seen it sooner. But I promise, she's not going to hurt us anymore." What we didn't know then was that Willow's empire was about to collapse, and we have front row seats to her downfall. 2 days later, Brandon came to visit me in the hospital, carrying a thick folder. He set it down on the tray beside my bed, his face grim. "You need to see this," he said, flipping it open. "She's been cooking the books for years. Fake property sales, hidden accounts, everything. It's all in here." Vanessa's jaw dropped as she sifted through the papers. "This isn't just unethical, it's criminal. The IRS would have a field day with this." That evening, David and I decided it was time to confront her, once and for all. We drove to her mansion and found her in her office, frantically shredding documents. "Why?" I demanded, stepping into the room. "Why did you do all this?" She spun around, her perfectly composed mask cracking. "Everything I did was to keep this family together," she snapped. "You were taking my son away from me." "No, Mother," David said, stepping forward. "You were losing control, and you couldn't handle it." "Control?" she hissed, her voice rising. "I built this empire from nothing. I know what's best for this family. You're just like your father, weak, easily manipulated by a gold digging." "Stop." David slammed his hand on her desk, his voice thunderous. "Dad didn't leave because he was weak. He left because of you, your manipulation, your lies, your need to control everything." Willow's face contorted with fury. "I made you who you are. Everything you have is because of me." "No," I said, my voice steady. "Everything we have is despite you. You tried to destroy us just to keep us dependent on you, but we're done letting you control our lives." The next morning, Rosie walked into my hospital room, pale and trembling. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice cracking. "She made me forge your signature on medical release forms. I kept copies and recordings. Willow's been planning to declare you incompetent since she found out you were pregnant." That was the last straw. We filed the harassment lawsuit that very day. Willow's response: she called a press conference, painting herself as the victim, a concerned grandmother persecuted by her mentally ill daughter-in-law. But that same afternoon, everything unraveled. The IRS showed up at her office with a search warrant, thanks to Brandon's evidence. Local news crews caught her on camera, desperately trying to shred documents. Breaking news: prominent real estate mogul Willow Sterling under investigation for tax fraud and embezzlement. As the news played on TV, my water broke. 8 hours later, our daughter Sophia entered the world. Perfect, healthy, and oblivious to the chaos surrounding her birth. David cut the cord while Vanessa and Brandon cheered from the waiting room. Willow tried to force her way into the maternity ward, making one last desperate attempt. "You can't keep my grandchild from me. Everything I did was for this family," she screamed as hospital security escorted her out, straight into the arms of waiting federal agents. The aftermath was both cathartic and chaotic. The DA's office uncovered decades of fraud. As more victims came forward, former business partners, employees, even other daughters-in-law, Willow's carefully constructed empire crumbled. She was found guilty on all counts. The judge handed down a brutal sentence: 15 years for financial crimes, with additional time for medical privacy violations and harassment. Meanwhile, our lives finally began to heal. David was offered a principal position at Brighton Prep, this time with no interference from his mother. We used part of the settlement from the harassment lawsuit to buy our dream home. My interior design business flourished after the story went public. People rallied around someone who stood up to a bully. Last week, I noticed Willow's mansion listed for sale, her assets seized by the federal government. David and I drove past it together, Sophia babbling in her car seat. "Do you think she's learned anything?" David asked as we passed the empty gates. "Probably not," I replied, "but we sure did." Sophia giggled in the back seat, her laughter filling the car. She will never know her grandmother's toxic love. Instead, she'll grow up knowing that her parents stood up to a bully and won. Sometimes justice needs a little push, and sometimes the best revenge is living well while watching your oppressor lose everything they once used to control you. The end of Willow's reign was just the beginning of our freedom. I still wrestle with questions about those events. If your mother-in-law was secretly sabotaging your spouse's career to trap you in financial dependence, would you protect your spouse from the painful truth about their mother? Or would you believe they deserve to know everything, even if it shatters their world and the foundation of their childhood? Did I do the right thing by exposing everything at once? Should I have taken a gentler approach? Was I wrong to gather evidence before confronting her? What if the stress had caused worse complications during my pregnancy? These questions haunt me, but one thing is clear: we broke free, and for that, I'll always be grateful.